Hola mis estudiantes! Today we are going to talk about verbs like gustar. So we're going to review the verb gustar and then we're going to highlight some verbs that follow the same rules. Ready? Let go! Alright, so remember, what does gustar mean in English? Well, literally it means to be pleasing to, but in our English vernacular we just say to like. So, I like cats. Yeah, anyway. Alright, so then let's talk about the rules of how we use gustar, because remember, it doesn't conjugate like a regular verb. So the verb itself, gustar, agrees with the things, or actions that one is liking. Okay? And then we use IOPs, or indirect object pronouns, not our subject pronouns. Remember, our subject pronouns are yo, tú, él, ella, and usted. We don't use those. So there's a lovely little chart of our subject pronouns. So since a gustar agrees with things or actions you are liking, then we've got two conjugations. The singular form, gusta, and then our plural form, gustan. So far, so good? Okay. So then now we've got a list of verbs that also follow the same gustar rules. We've got encantar, which means to delight, or in English we would say to love. Chocar is really the opposite, to dislike or to hate. Importar, to be important to. Fascinar is to be fascinated by. Interesar, to be interested in. And then quedar, which means to fit, when we're talking about like clothing. So that one doesn't necessarily follow the same like spectrum of liking things, but it also follows our verbs like gustar rules. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at some examples and then make sure we're comfortable with our formation of our sentences. So, me encantan las sandalias. Okay? Why are we using an as our ending for encantar? Okay? Why do we use me and not yo? Okay? So let's process through that example. Me encantan las sandalias. Well, we use the IOP, me, as opposed to our subject pronoun yo. And we use the ending an for plural things. Alright, so since las sandalias is plural, that means we're going to use our plural form of our verb, encantan. In English, that would translate to, I love the sandals. Or I love sandals. Again, depending on context of your sentence. Alright, importar. Nos importa regatear en el mercado de aire libre. How do we know that importa is the correct form of the verb? What follows? Notice, what's important to us? In this case, it's regatear. Remember, regatear means to bargain. So, no matter how many verbs we have, we always use the singular form of the verb like gustar. So, we can list 123 different verbs of things that are important to us, but it's always going to be importa, encanta, interesa, so on and so forth. So, in this case, this sentence would translate to bargaining in the open air market is important to us. Alright, so let's look at another example, interesar, with our verb. Te interesan la pulsera, el reloj, y el cinturón. So, think about this. What are other ways that we can make things we like, make plural the things we like? So, notice interesan is that plural ending. And that's because we've got a list of items, of singular items. So, similar to las sandalias, right? That was plural. Interesan is going to be plural because we've got multiple things that we're talking about, even though it's just in a list. Okay. So far, so good? Now let's look at these sentences. Alright. A mí me fascina el suéter. A ti te quedan bien las botas. A ellos les encantan las faldas. Okay. What's different between those sentences and the ones that we were looking at earlier? Well, notice we've got these a phrases. Now, if you want to specify who your subject is, we don't use the subject pronoun, but we use this a phrase. Alright, but we still always have to use that IOP. So you're always going to use that me, te, le, nos, os, or les, and then that a phrase is just an added bonus. So, pronouns after prepositions look a little bit differently. I'm going to sneeze. Alright, we're just going to keep on going. So, prepositions after our pronouns look something like this. A mí, with an accent. A ti, no accent. A él, a ella, a usted. You can put someone's name. A Miguel. A nosotros or nosotras. A vosotros or vosotras. A ellos, a ellas, or a ustedes. Okay. So notice about this table, what's different from this table than just our regular subject pronouns. Well, if you'll notice, our yo form changes to me with an accent, and our tu form changes to ti without an accent. Everything else is the same. So you'll see this again with pronouns after prepositions, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, here's your opportunity, your first opportunity to stop and practice. Go ahead, and I would like for you to fill in the blank with those 6 sentences of what the correct verb like gustar should be. Be prepared to process through what those mean in English. Alright? Go ahead and hit pause, and then we'll check your answers here shortly. Alright, let's see how you did. First of all, your first answer should be, no me fascinan libros de ciencia ficción. A Jorge no le choca hacer la tarea. Número 3. ¿Qué sabor de helado te encanta? Nos gustan los fines de semana. Les gustan días soleados. And les interesa practicar deportes? Bummer. So there's one more activity for you to do on your notes. We're going to check those answers in class. So please make sure that you do those. And if you have any questions, you write them down. One last thought is that the thing for you to focus on is that these phrases, we do not express them as we do in English. So our word order is different. Notice in Spanish, there's more of a formula, where in English, our word order is very different. So I want you to really think about that as you're creating and processing through these sentences, okay? And we'll talk about it in class. Gracias!